Welcome to ET Studios powered by Zscaler. Now, data has become the new currency and also the new battleground. With the DPDP Act, Digital India, and the India AI mission all reshaping the way organizations think about data, leaders are being forced to reimagine protection, privacy, and innovation at the same time. Now, to unpack this, we have with us Gaurav Duggal, SVP IT and Security at Geo, and Krishna V, Business Leader Strategic Accounts at Zscaler India. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this session. And we'll directly get into the topic. We're talking about DPDP, and I'll start with you, Krishna, on this. With the DPDP Act shaping how now personal data is handled, how do you think should leaders rethink their data strategies now?
Yeah, I think for me, primarily I will break it down into three aspects. First is visibility. Who has access to what data? That elementary behind it, right? Because when things go south, it's very important to understand that we are able to diagnose it. So visibility is of paramount importance. When I look at after visibility, it's important to have consolidation because today what's happening is if you look at a lot of legacy old company which has been in business for 30, 40 years, they have multiple vendors, one for endpoint, one for email, one for web, etc., right? So consolidation is critical because policies can be consistent, which means you're able to scale it up. And when you look at once visibility is there, consolidation is there, it then translates into what actions are you taking with every incident. And I think that's where workflow automation also comes into play. So if I look at from a DPDP Act perspective, for a company to have a very effective strategy, visibility, consolidation, and workflow automation are for me the three things that I feel can help companies achieve to its truest potential of security.
All right, sir, if you can also come into this conversation, how has DPDP Act kind of influenced the way you approach to managing and securing data?
Thank you. So we before DPDP Act itself, DPDP Act came in 2023. It's not yet implemented and forced, but the guidelines are all out. But before DPDP Act itself, we ensured that we are highly safe and secured with customer data. We come from a very regulated environment. That means we handle 500 million customers. We recently crossed um, for telco. We have retail and finance is a different division. But all these divisions, it's very important for us to safeguard our customers' data. We handle like between our vendors, how much data they can get, between our microservices, how much data they can share. Uh, as and when Act gets enforced, I think a lot of people will have challenges because the penalties are very heavy. It's north of 250 crores if you do something, and I'm sure which will get enforced before 2027. I think that's going to be a big thing. Data residency was always our thing, where we were always India first, India hosted company across board. And then what we have lately done is we have Zscaler implement a lot of endpoint protection for us to safeguard what, who, and how they access anything which is outside and what they upload. We control even generative AI is something which has become big recently. Our chairman doesn't want to stifle any innovation, so we don't bar anybody to not use generative AI because that gives them a lot of productivity and power. But we control using Zscaler dashboards what they access. If they are uploading something, we give them a pop-up, and all of these controls are enabled by Zscaler for us, and we're very thankful for that. And then we have one more thing which we have done in our 5G stack, which is homegrown. We are going to export our 5G stack to the world. We're talking to various telcos that are outside India, especially South Asia, and that's quantum safe. So that's the first stack which is quantum safe, ground sub built, homegrown in India for the world. So this is something big, and I strongly believe agentic AI, quantum, and all of these techs are going to be the future. Somebody who can play with it, somebody who can run with it, are going to rule the world, and we definitely want to be ahead of that curve.
All right. Thank you so much. And when we talk about data, we shall perhaps also talk about cloud security, right? And now we're seeing that cloud security is accelerating under the Digital India initiative. So if I'll come to you, sir, what are those misconceptions that organizations or people still carry around cloud security, and you perhaps get to hear about them a lot? What would that be?
No, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Today, for instance, cloud security is taken for granted. So one of the misconceptions people have is if I'm moving data to cloud, it's automatically secure. I think that's a big misconception people have. A lot of mature organizations are already on that journey. They are securing everything, but I think for me that's a big thing, right? Securing your cloud is very critical because today when you're moving data from on-prem, your crown jewels, your core customer data, your employee data to cloud, it's important that you're also securing the cloud data because eventually data leakage can happen from anywhere. So I think again I go back to the point around, right, with acts like DPDP coming into play. It's not just about securing your users, right? It's also about securing your workloads, you're securing your cloud. And I think that's where security holistically is very critical because that's going to be a big challenge for organizations as they're adopting cloud extensively. So cloud security is sometimes quite underestimated, and I think, like you rightly asked the question, and I'm very glad that I got a chance to answer that.
So I like to add on top of
Yes,
his thing,
please.
because people assume, like he rightly said, that if you move something on cloud, it is secure, data residency has come in, duplication is there, versioning is there, replication is there. But there is a big problem of people who think that if they put firewall rules or they put a VPC configuration saying that this is secure, it is not secure, because once an agentic AI bot comes in, it's going to uh, encrypt all your data, and then somebody will ask you, give me some bitcoins for you to decrypt it. And this has happened multiple times. We have seen in last 1 or 2 years where, so cloud security is an external security, right? We need to also look at what's happening inside. So for an example, like we do, we need to track user behaviors who are monitoring cloud, who are operating cloud, who are trying to work with these kind of tools, because 90% of the cracks which has been detected is because of social engineering, and which is becoming the biggest threat. People intentionally or unintentionally leak something, and they get into a problem where they have an access, role-based access of high nature, and because of that there is a leak, and then an agentic AI bot is deployed, and even if you have replicated your data, even if you have versioned your data, everything is for a toss.
All right, but also explain us, how do you sort of balance the need, for collaboration with the strict data protection rules, now that we are talking about data?
So the data protection is welcome. We in India is taking PII data seriously. If you, I'll tell you my personal incidents. I was on a vacation in US with my family, and it is 10 years ago. Um, so I was just taking a click in California somewhere, and somebody just passed by with his car. Just because he passed at a speed, I unfortunately had a click of his car's number. He came back and he said, "You need to delete this." So Western people take their data very seriously from a decade ago, right? And
Yeah,
India, we are like, we can share your
yeah,
PAN card in a railway station, you
Yeah,
can share your
yeah,
Aadhaar card
absolutely.
on some form and something, and every data is
And give
available everywhere
access to multiple apps on your
yeah.
phone without looking at the
without
terms
looking
and
at
Very
anything,
conditions.
interesting analogy that you shared,
right?
actually.
So data farming ground of the world is India, right? People don't care about their data. But I welcome this, that people are looking at PII data to be safeguarded, and there are various practices we follow. So we don't, as I said, between APIs for who has what kind of an access, we check their user behaviors, and we ensure that PII data is not shared. It is somewhere which is secure. If somebody wants to, let's say, reward with a loyalty engine, then we have a different configuration, which is an internal configuration, by which anonymously you can find out who that cohort is without knowing exactly who that person is. So nobody's data at any point in time is visible to anybody, including the database guy, including the operations guy, including myself. If I want to access, there are so much checks and control that I cannot look at anybody's data. We can at max look at some tokens or some models, which can then figure out what needs to be done for that customer.
All right. If you can come into the conversation, when we talk about the Digital India program, how does the future look like to you?
So if I look at it from a digital India perspective, right, I think the topic that we definitely cannot avoid, I think my friend Gaurav brought it up, right? It's the concept of agentic AI and AI coming into play. Now, one thing that I've noticed, if you ask your friends or if you ask your colleagues out here, they'll talk about, if you talk about generative AI, they'll talk about probably a chat GPT or a perplexity, two or three names that are very commonly used. But believe it or not, there are more than 40 plus generative AI tools that are being used today by employees of organizations for whatsoever reason. And it's important. I think Gaurav rightly pointed out at the start as well, right? Restricting it to a certain limit is great, but ensuring that productivity is also not impacted is crucial, which means that having the right security policies around it is critical. Because in fact, now with digital AI, in fact, India has also launched a AI initiative,
Yeah,
right?
India's AI mission
India
is
AI's
already
mission,
there.
right? So
Yeah.
now, if aligning with all of that, we are actually encouraging the use of AI in the right spirit, and for organizations to ensure that today, for example, if I have a source code, my organization, for me, the source code is very critical as a tech product company. If that source code is being copy pasted into a AI LLM model to ensure they are using it for the right reasons. They want to ensure that my productivity is good. I'm able to fix the source code, but source code is actually getting leaked out. Same with financial reports. So while AI is great in terms of what we are using, organizations need to ensure that they have the right security measures around AI as well. And that for me is the biggest transition that I'm forecasting, right? Even at Zscaler, what we are doing is there is a lot of focus on data security around usage of AI, generative AI. And yeah, I think that for me is a big transition that I'm looking forward to in the coming year, where it's not a double-edged sword. Productivity is not impacted. At the same time, for organization, security is not impacted.
But how do you define that mindset shift which is needed to sort of needed for organizations to secure their AI
I think
programs
I'm
responsibly?
glad you asked this, right? In my experience, there are very, extremely forward-looking leaders like Gaurav here and organizations like Geo and Reliance, but there are a lot of organizations where mindset change is the biggest challenge, because there are certain ways in which things are done, adopting the new. And for example, today a lot of, I keep getting confused with the generations, but the latest generation that is there, who's there in the workforce, who are in their late 20s and early 30s, they're all used to a digital first world. For them to ensure that you restrict things on them, they will get very, it's very intimidating for them not to have the access to tools. So I think it's a mind shift change that we need to do a lot of education around.
All right. Now, as we are moving towards the end of this conversation, gentlemen, if I come to you, Gaurav, what's that, guiding principle that now sort of underpins your data related decision making in your organization?
So first of all, I'll just add up upon the points on Krishna. Um, so organizations are all getting enlightened by data privacy, data security, and we are maybe a little late, but the new generations adopt things faster than what we think. Right? The new set of companies, if you look at it, the new startups, the new founders, even my kids, they are very clear that what is my data, what is not to be uploaded, and what needs to be done. So they are very clear. We were in the transition phase, so we were like old generation plus new generation, so and the companies like that. But the older organizations like Reliance, we have very as I said, we were not waiting for DPDP Act to come in for us to secure data, for us to adopt technology. We were AI first always. We were onboarding users in 30 seconds to 60 seconds with doing eKYC. We were also helping users not to leak their data. So there were a lot of things we were already doing before DPDP Act came in. We look at the principles like we cannot any PII data from the design to development, wherever it touches the point. So we are looking at it. DevSecOps is a big thing. All the CI/CD pipelines are having security inbuilt. We have role-based access with endpoint control thanks to Zscaler. Nobody, including our chairman, I would say so, can look at anybody's data, right? And we are adopting agentic AI because nothing can be done at India scale. We have 500 million users in Geo. We have 400 million users in retail. GFS is on its own journey to become the largest financial institute in India. So, so many users come to us daily, interact with us daily. We cannot break their trust. We were India first, data residency first, encrypted all data. Nobody has access, as I said, to my chairman also. Everybody needs permissions. Biggest thing for the organizations which they don't think is threat internally, people upload their files and code on these GPTs without knowing what's going on. People download models and they just think it's an open source model. We all know what happened in Pahalgam instance where people were using Chinese phones which could talk to Chinese satellites, and they were able to bypass the whole telco infrastructure which India had, and they were able to attack us. So you need to know what you are doing with whatever models you are downloading. Your open source is free, but doesn't mean that it's without risk. And lately, I've written a book called Agentic AI at Risk, which will be coming soon. Which I would say people should read it, because building agentic AI, people saying it's a cakewalk. There is a lot in it. When you store embedding vectors, how are you dealing with your PII data? How are you dealing with users' data? How are you going to train the layers of RAG and models? So all of this thing, there's a lot in it. It's a decent mid-sized book of 250 pages. I hope people learn from it, and we are internally practicing all of it. It is Reliance Intelligence, which was launched a month ago by our chairman. That's going to spearhead AI revolution. Probably we are part of India mission also, India AI missions. We are proud contributor there. And we're trying to do something for India. I think Forbes made a list of top 10 AI companies to look forward to, and we were only Indian company which was part of it.
All right, thank you for sharing those points, and they were actually really insightful for even for our audiences to understand. And on this note, gentlemen, I would like to end this conversation. We really had a fascinating chat, and we discussed perhaps a lot of things in this conversation. One thing that I understood, that data, when it comes to data security, it's not only about compliance in India now; it's also about trust. It's about innovation, and it is also at the center of India's digital growth story, right? And lastly, congratulations for the 500 million subscribers for
Thank
Geo.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being a
Thank
part
you so
of
much.
this
It was an absolute
conversation.
pleasure. Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, stay tuned for many more such interesting conversations only at ET Studios.